Hi everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and today I've got a card using several new bits and pieces from the Autumn Winter mini catalogue. It's a reasonably complicated card. It started off quite simple, but then I decided no, we'll put a bit of this in, a bit of that in. So let's get started with it. So first of all, I'll show you the new products that we're going to use in this card. When I say complicated, don't turn off, it's really not that complicated. It's just got quite a few elements to it. So the first thing we're going to use is these new masks. They are the Abundant Beauty decorative masks, and they're available in the Autumn Winter mini catalogue. Now, there's a couple of things I really like about these. They're not just Christmas masks. So you've got some that are sort of an A5, I suppose. So there's this one, which is Snowflakes, which is the one that we're actually going to be using today. And then you get this really nice autumnal one, which has got acorns and leaves. Really pretty little mask, that one. Hopefully you can see that. There's the acorns and things. And then you get this houndstooth check mask. Great for backgrounds, those two. And then what you get is a set of masks, and I will do a video showing you how to do these, but there's a set of masks that make up a sunflower. Now, the clever people at Stampin Up have obviously realised that when we're crafting we need speed, and they've numbered them. What they've also done is put this handy little notch in the corner so that you can line them up. So this is the way they go. So this is number 1, which is the body of the sunflowers. I'm going to move these to one side and hopefully you'll be able to see it build up. And then this is number 2, which is the leaves for the sunflowers, and they line up. You make sure you line your notches up and get them in the right order, and hopefully you can see that starting to build there. And then this is number 3, and that then goes on top, and hopefully you can see, if I've got the angle right, so you can see the light. So you've got the sunflowers, the middles and the leaves so far, and then this is number 4 and the final one. And then if I can tip it right so you can see, I don't know if you can, this puts the middles in. I think maybe we've gone a bit too thick now, but yeah, so you line the notch up. I will do a video showing those, but as I said, for today we're going to use the sunflower one. Okay, so you can use these masks in lots of different ways. They're a plastic, so you can use them with a blending brush, you could use them with a spritz, with a sponge or a dauber. You can use Versamark over them, and we might do that in this video. It's not what I'd got planned for this card, but I might just quickly show you how that will work, since I have got my heat gun out, because we are using some heat. So as I said, Abundant Beauty decorative masks. Let's just pop those back in the bag so I don't lose them. My craft room is an absolute tip. I'm getting ready for a craft class tomorrow, and I've got stuff everywhere, and it was enough of a mess as it was, because I've started buying Christmas presents and what have you. I like to get going early. Okay, and then the stamp sets that we're going to use is the Winter Owls, although we're not actually using the stamps out of that, to be fair. We're just using the dies, and the die that we're going to use is this one. So this is the one that cuts out. I've gone ahead and cut it out so I can show you, but this is the one that cuts out the sort of detailed owl, and I've cut him from basic white, and that's what he comes out like. Okay, oh, excuse me, I've just given you a really bad view of my very untidy desk. Okay, so we're going to use him out of there, and then I'm going to bring in another new set. This one is not in the mini catalogue, this is actually an online exclusive. It's called Horse and Sleigh. Now the paper's sold out. There are 6x6 papers that go with this, and there is also a die set that goes with this. I'll be making some cards using this and the papers and the dies a little bit later on, so I'll make sure to post a video of that. But I'm just using the tree out of this one, and the greeting, wishing you a season of cheer. The other new thing that I've got to show you are these dies. Now these are called the Christmas Classic dies, and you actually get 2 sheets of dies. We're actually using this die, and this you can use it on its own or you can layer it up. So it comes with, this is the die on its own. So obviously you can put a sentiment in there, but it then comes with another die that is very slightly smaller and matches those cropped corners. That you can layer up, and you'll see what I mean later. You get these nice little edge sort of bits. This does go with a stamp set, but I didn't buy the stamp set yet. You've got a holly leaf, and then you've got this gorgeous square border. You can really see that being, you know, a standout bit on the front of a card. It has got holly leaves in it, but only a few. So you could get away with using that on a birthday card as well. And that again has this square with the cut off edges, and then there's a couple of bits of foliage, and these two go with the stamp set, which, as I said, I haven't actually bought yet. I should have got my mini catalogue out so I can show you. But anyway, we're going to be using a couple of stamps out of that. I don't always buy the stamp sets that go with the dies. If there are particular dies that I like and I'm not a massive fan of the stamp set, then I don't always buy the stamp set. Okay, so let me bring in my bits and pieces and show you what we're going to be doing. So first of all, we're going to be making a gatefold card. So this is half of a UK A4 sheet. If you're in America, it will work. You might just have to jiggle the measurements slightly, or, you know, if you're letter size, I think that's what you call it in the States. But this is half of an A4. So I've cut a whole A4 sheet in half at 14.8. Then what I've done is I've scored in from each end at 5.2. And that will give us the gatefold. Now you'll notice it doesn't exactly meet in the middle, but that isn't going to matter, and you'll see why once I get started. So I've also got 2 panels. This is Night of Navy. I've got 2 panels, and these are cut 14.3 by 4.7, I think. Yes, 4.7. So 4.7 wide, 14.3 long, and they are going to layer up on there, and that is also Night of Navy. I've also got a piece of basic white, and that is going to fit inside the card, and we're going to stamp a scene on that. Okay, so I've got those prepared. The other thing I've got is that really nice die cut. So that's the background of it, and then I've got the inner part in Night of Navy to layer up. Okay, and you'll see what we're going to do with those in a minute. But as I said, we need to get this masking done first, and the reason for that is that I'm using Stampin' Up's Whisper White ink. Now this is a pigment ink as opposed to a water-based ink, so it does take a little bit longer to dry. I'm hoping to be able to cheat and do both of these at the same time, so they sort of match when they're on the front of the card. Obviously they're going to have a slight gap between them, but I wanted to try and get them so they looked like it was one piece that had been cut in half. And of course you could do that. You could cut a piece that is 14.3 by 9.3.5. Double, basically double these parts. So I'm going to put those on there like that, and then you could just cut it in half. And then I'm going to put the mask over the top. Now we do need to hold this mask down, so I'm going to just bring in some low tack masking tape. I struggle with this kind of tape. It doesn't ever seem to stick as well as I think it should. I mean, mine might be a bit old now, to be fair, because I've had it for ages. So I'm just going to make sure that that is stuck down. The only thing you need to make sure is that your tape isn't going over the card underneath, because that is the part we want to get the ink on, obviously. Okay, so I've stuck that down on there. I don't think we need a piece at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my Whisper White ink in. Now, when you buy these ink pads, they arrive uninked, and you get a re-inker to use. You might notice that mine's gone a bit of a yellowy colour. That doesn't affect its use whatsoever. So I'm just going to grab a blending brush. You could just go over the you could go over the sorry, juggling in my blending brushes. I thought I'd got everything out, but I hadn't. You could just go over it with the ink pad, like that, in theory. But I find it easier to use a blending brush. Now I'm really hoping that this doesn't need re-inking. I think it might. We'll see. I'll give it a go. Oh no, I think we might just about be okay, but I think I'm going to have to re-ink this before anyone else uses it. It's been a little while. I don't use this ink all that much because it, as I said, it does take a little bit longer to dry, but it does give a really nice effect. Just make sure that you cover all of your blue card, Night of Navy card. Turn it out round if you need to. I've got mine on a piece of scrap paper, but there's nothing to stop you attaching it to your work station. And we just need to make sure that we've got ink on all of those. Oh dear me, I'm knocking things down. I need a bigger desk. You see what I mean about that tape doesn't always stay. Just need to make sure you've gone over all of the pattern. Now, because these masks are made of plastic, you can lob it in the sink to give it a wash. And with this pigment ink, I would suggest you wash it off quite quickly. Right, I think we've got it all. Okay. So let's just peel that off and see. A moment of truth. There we go. So it gives that nice sort of fuzzy. Almost makes it the cardstock look textured. And it's got a very slight shimmer to it as well. But you do need to leave it to dry because it will smudge if you don't. Okay, and you can see there where my mask moved. It's just made that a little bit fuzzy, but that's okay. We can work with that. Okay, I'm just going to move these to one side. And I'll go and wash that when I finish this video. Okay, so these parts are going to mount up on the front, but so I don't have to touch them too much. I'm just going to put those to one side to dry, and now we're going to work on the other components of the card. So I'm working on our piece of basic white, which is going to go into the middle of the card, so that when you open the gatefold, oh goodness me, state of my hands, sorry. This is video number 4 that I've filmed today. So when you open the card, you see this inside, and what we're going to do, we're going to stamp a scene on this. So I've got the tree from Horse and Sleigh, which is this one here, and then what we're going to use is the Owl in Flight, this one here. Now this is a little bit big proportion wise for my liking for how we're going to do this card, but we can make it work by making it look like it's flying up to trees that are quite high up, and you'll hopefully see what I mean. So I've brought in some shaded spruce. You could use whatever colour green you've got. Okay, and I'm just going to ink up my stamp. Now these are photopolymer, and I'm going to stamp. You have to excuse me, I'm left-handed and I can't get my head in over here because otherwise I'll be knocking the camera out of the way. So imagine this is straight. So how did I do this before? I think we're going to go there. That's it. So that's our first tree. And then what I did was I made a mask. So by just stamping the tree onto a post-it note and then roughly cutting it out. Just line that up. Now you might notice that my post-it note isn't as long as the tree. For this technique, that's not going to matter. But if you were stamping them in a line, you might want to use a bigger. You can get post-it notes in A5, so you might want to use a bigger one. But for what I want, this will work. So we're now going to go to the right of the tree and stamp one up here. Very aware I'm covered in ink. Now you can see obviously that trunk stops in midair, which they wouldn't do, but that's fine. So we're going to come back down here and we're going to stamp another one. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to ink up the top of the stamp, and we're going to bring it in here and stamp our last tree there. And then when we remove the mask, they're not all sort of higgledy-piggledy on top of each other. And I've managed to line this one up so it looks like a very tall pine. Okay, I'm just going to put my mask back in there. Oh my word, I am absolutely covered in ink. Let me just give my hands a little wipe. Oh, not with that one because that's dry. Don't you hate that when you go to wipe your hands on a baby wipe and the packet's been left open and they're dry? Okay, well, that's got the worst of it off anyway. So we're done with our shaded spruce. So let's pop that away so I don't lean on it and get ink anywhere. And I'm just going to give my tree stamp a clean. Now a good idea is to stamp it off on some scrap paper. I use a chamois to clean my stamps, and if you don't stamp it off first, you'd be surprised how much ink is still left on it. Okay, and then give it a clean on the chamois. Take that off and then give the block a clean. Okay, we'll lob that back on there. Oh, I can still see there's green ink on there, so we'll give that another rub. It's going to be used again tomorrow. So right, okay, so that's that cleaned. And then what we're going to do, we're going to come in with our owl in flight. Now I've got pecan pie for this. The owl that we're going to use on the front of the card, I've cut in basic white, and we're leaving him in basic white like a snowy owl. But this one is going to go inside, so we're just going to do him in a very pale, pecan pie is quite a pale brown. And I'm going to stamp him off the page as if he's flying towards the tree. We're not going to have a greeting inside this card, it's going to be on the front. Okay, so we're going to sort of stamp him off the page as if he's flying towards the tree, and there he is. Okay, so I'm just going to close that ink pad up and we'll stamp our owl off. And I managed to only ink part of the owl, so there's less wasted ink. Okay, so we want him to look like he's flying towards the top of a very tall conifer. Oh my goodness, that one doesn't want to clean off. Sometimes you just need to use the corner of your chamois to get into the detail. These stamps are so detailed. This is a red rubber one and they are incredibly detailed. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, and I know I've probably talked about this in lots of previous videos, but I just wanted to point this out to anybody that's new. Our red rubber stamps come with a foam behind them, and then you get a sticker to mount to make it stick to the block, which they do really well. And you might find sometimes they feel difficult to get off. Now, the most important thing is not to dig your thumbnail into that foam because you will damage it. So if you use sort of the ball of your thumb and sort of roll it off, and then you should be able to pull it off without damaging the foam. Sometimes if you've left a stamp on a block, it can make them really difficult to get off because they do really cling. Okay, so that's our centre scene. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that out of the way for the minute, and then we're going to work on our greeting. So as I said before, I've die cut this from those new dies, and you'll find those in the autumn winter mini seasonal catalogue. And then on this part we're going to add a greeting, and I'm using greeting from Horse and Sleigh, and it says wishing you a season of cheer. Now what we're going to do is we're going to emboss that with silver embossing powder. So I've got my little embossing buddy here, and I'm going over my piece of cardstock so that hopefully any grease from my hands won't mark it, and we'll get a good impression. And then I'm going to ink up my stamp with my Versamark. For those of you that saw that looks absolutely disgusting, doesn't it? But it's still perfectly serviceable, and we do sell a re-inker for Versamark as well. So if it looks like that, don't think you need to buy a new one, and if it dries out a little bit, then again, don't think you need to buy a new one. Get yourself a re-inker. Okay, and we're going to stamp this centrally, or at least I hope I am. Okay, I think we're about right there. Just make sure, these are photopolymer stamps, so just make sure you've given it a nice even pressure. Sometimes it can help to put a stamp mat underneath. My desk's got several layers of paper, so it's not too bad. And then I've got some silver embossing powder here. I often, I usually decant all my embossing powders into Chinese takeaway tubs. any other tub will suffice. Some people use the small lock and lock tubs. Just makes it easier to pick it up and sprinkle the powder over than trying to do it from the little tub. Okay, I'm just going to give that a flick on the back to make sure we've got that all off. Okay, I'm going to put that to one side. That spoon's a bit long. I've got to chop a bit off the end of the spoon. And then I'm going to bring in my heat gun. Now, I'm also going to grab a pair of scissors because this is on a small piece of cardstock and it will start flying around as soon as I turn my heat gun on. Right, so put your fingers in your ears if you don't like the noise. Here it comes. Now, I always try and warm my heat gun up a bit before I aim it at the cardstock. And I don't know if you can see from there. Hopefully you'll see it in a minute. As the powder goes on, the powder is really dull. And you'll be able to see if you've heated it all properly because it turns a lovely silver colour. It's sort of a grey before. And it makes it really easy to see if there's any bits you haven't heated. Don't leave your heat gun on it for over a really long time because you can actually scorch the embossing powder. And there we go. Hopefully you can see that. It's getting dark outside, so it's not brilliantly light. But anyway, there we go. That's that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mount that up on some dimensionals. Now, the other thing I want to say about heat embossing is we've literally just heated that. So don't turn it over straight away to put dimensionals on the back because you can smudge it when the embossing powder is still warm. If you turn it over and put it on something, you might very easily smudge it. Also keep your fingers away from it because, again, you'll smudge it. So I'll just sort of give that a little bit of a waft. I'll find our dimensionals while we're doing that. There we go. Yep. Okay. And then it should be dry now, so we can flip it over and stick a couple of dimensionals on the back. Now, anybody that knows me well knows that I am a frugal crafter. Stampin' Up products are brilliant, but they're not the cheapest products on the market. And I just like to be careful how I use them. So I've only put 2 on there. I've seen people put 4 or 5 dimensionals on the back of there, which is a little bit overkill, but you know. Okay, and we're just going to put that onto our die cut shape. Okay, right, I think we're okay to start putting this together now. So I'm going to bring back in my base card, and these bits should be dry enough for us to use now. So first thing we're going to do is stick our owl into the middle. Okay. Now, I'm crafting on the hoof here. Some people like it to be quite plain. We're using a really dark base card, so I think it just needs a little bit of something around the edges just to take off that harsh edge. So I think what we're going to do, I'll grab another blending brush. I think what we'll do is just go around the edge with a little bit of shaded spruce, very, very lightly. This is quite a dark colour. So I'm going to start at the bottom right-hand corner. We always start off our piece of card that we're sponging on. Otherwise you can get some nasty sort of swishy lines. And I'm just going to go a little bit heavier at the corners and just very gently around the edges. Okay, just to take that starkness off the white. Okay, and then we'll put some Tombow on the back of that. So we're going to stick this down flat because we don't want to make this card too bulky because it's going to have bits on the front. Obviously, when you're making cards to send out at Christmas, as so many people do, just bear in mind the layers that you put on your card and the implication that might have for the recipient with post. So in the UK, if you send out a very, very embellished, layered up card, if it doesn't fit through the I've got one somewhere, I don't know what I've done with it. The post office, you could buy a plastic post box, basically, and it has the measurements on there. And if your card doesn't go through it, then the person at the other end is going to incur an extra fee, or your card will languish in the sorting office, neither of which we want to happen. Okay, so now we're going to fix these parts onto the front. And I'm just trying to work out which way round they went. Not that way. This must have been that way. Okay, so we want those to be on there like that. So we are going to raise these up. And again, I'm not going to put a ton of dimensionals on them. You know, if you've got a card with moving parts and things that you need to stay still, then yes, put a few more on. But I like to spend my pennies on stamp sets and dies and pretty ribbons. Oh, talking of which, I nearly forgot. Okay, so this is a new ribbon from the Autumn Winter mini catalogue, and it's Night of Navy and Gold, and it's meant to go with the Oh Holy Night suite, which I haven't got. It's a lovely suite, but I'm not particularly a religious person, so I won't be getting that. I have, however, got some of the papers from the suite, and I couldn't resist this ribbon. I'm just going to take the plastic off, and then I can show you what it looks like. Okay, so it's a really, really pretty ribbon. Look at that. It's like an organza. I don't know if you can, oh, look at that. Hopefully you can pick up that sparkle of that gold. Look at that. Now, I know we've embossed our greeting in silver, and the reason I used silver was because it's going on Night of Navy and then grey, but you could emboss it in gold if you wanted to. When we've actually stuck these on, these panels are going to go on the front of our card like this, obviously raised up. I should be breaking into a Take That song, shouldn't I? You raise me up. I'm not going to make you put up with that. And then our greeting is going to go across like that, but it's only going to be stuck on one side. And then our snowy owl is going to come across like that, and that's only going to be stuck on one side, but opposite sides. So we'll be sticking the snowy owl on with its tail and this greeting by the left hand side. Now, I really wanted to use a little bit of that ribbon because it is so beautiful. This side is going to be almost covered by our greeting and part of the owl. So what I think we're going to do is just put a very small amount onto this side here. We might be able to get a piece on the top on there. So in order to do that, I'm going to use some Seal Plus, because that's nice and sticky. So I'm just going to put a little bit there. Oh, goodness me. I always get in a pickle with these. I love the old snail. I don't get on so well with these. I always seem to not be able to... Ah, there we go. Get it to go on. I think it's the angle. Okay, so we're just going to stick one end of this lovely lush ribbon on there. We're going to go round with it like that. And then we're going to stick the other end down behind. So it's just... And then I've got my ribbon scissors. Nobody uses my ribbon scissors for anything but ribbon. I just think that a little bit of that gorgeous ribbon, it's just so shiny. Look at it. I'm a bit of a magpie. I think I must have been a magpie in a previous life. Okay, so that's just going to add that little bit of sparkle onto our card. So let's start to mount this all up. So let's bring the card back in, and we'll take our dimensional backs off. Now this was this side. I find it easier to have my card flat, but just make sure you're sticking the right bit on the right side. Obviously, I've turned the card backwards now. Okay, and we're just going to layer these up on there like that. And then this side, I'm just going to check to see if we will fit any ribbon. Again, like I said, this is a little bit of crafting on the hoof. So we've got that there. Our greeting's going to go on there. Obviously, we need to make sure that these parts are within the base card, otherwise it won't fit in the envelope properly. And then our snowy owl is going to go there. So no, I don't think we have got room for any more ribbon. Okay, that's fine. We've got a little bit of bling there. Okay, and we can add some more bling. So this one is going to go onto this side. Can't have Christmas without bling. It's against the law. Okay, and that is going to go on there like that. So when we fold our card, we've got those snowflakes. And then what we're going to do, I'm going to bring in some, where are my gems? I've got so much stuff on my desk now, I can't find anything at all. Where are my gems? Found pearls. I found coloured things. I haven't found any gems. Where have they gone? No, they're pearls. Butterflies. Gems. Here we go. So these are the iridescent rhinestone basic jewels. I'm not sure if these are still available. I think they were out of the annual catalogue. We're going to use them because they're pretty. And I'm just going to pop a couple of the smaller ones just as an accent if I can pick them up. My Take Your Pick tools run out of putty, so that's not helping me. Usually I can do it with the blade of my scissors. Okay, so we're going to stick a couple of those. Go for one there. Oh my word. I'm really not having a good time doing this, am I? And we'll go for one there. Why is it when it's really hot and you're tired, nothing ever works, especially when you're filming? Okay, so I've just popped one down there and one up there. And then we're going to stick this on the left-hand side. So we just need some dimensionals on that left-hand side. Just get rid of those out of the way for now. My desk is slowly disappearing. Oh, I don't know if you heard that. That was the cap on my seal. I always put it on the wrong way up. Okay, now what did I do with my dimensionals? Oh, I put them back. I try to be tidy when I craft. It doesn't always work. Now, have I just stuck those on the wrong end? Yes, I have. Oh, goodness me. The good thing about dimensionals is if you don't press them down too hard, you can actually peel them off. Unfortunately for me, they aren't going to stick on anything else. So we'll get rid of those and we'll try that again. Let's try that again, shall we? So you want them on the left-hand side. So not the right-hand side, so just turn it over. As I said, it's really hot here. It's dark outside. The sun went in about 2 o'clock, but it's been really, really muggy. Okay, so this is going to go onto this side here. And as I said, we just need to make sure that the sticky out bits, if you like, are within the card blank. I think that's straight, more or less. Okay, that's straight. Yeah, I think that's straight. Okay, and then we've got our snowy owl. Now, I'm going to use mini dimensionals for our snowy owl because obviously he's die cut, so he's... Where are my minis? Oh, these are the edges. I've got some minis somewhere. I was using them earlier for another video. Anyway, this will work. So I'm going to have to be careful where I put my dimensionals. Now we want his tail to just stick to this side here. So I think this piece here is probably my optimum place. Now, don't ever throw away your edges on your dimensionals because they come in really handy for this kind of thing. And obviously the bits on the mini dimensionals are quite small and they're really handy if you've got fiddly little bits you're trying to get dimensionals on. Okay, so we're just going to put one on his tail and close up our card again, and he is going to look like he's flying across the front of our card like that. So when we open the card, we just have to unhook his wing, and then we've got our scene inside. Okay, and there is just about room to write in here, but if you don't want to do that, what you can do is put a panel on the back and write on the back, and that is probably what I'll do on this card. Now, I just feel like it needs a little bit more bling. I'm really annoyed. I should know that I have got some, here they are, some standard rhinestone jewels. Okay, so I'm just going to pop a few of those on, I think. Let's hope we have a little bit more luck getting those off the paper. Okay, so we've got our iridescent ones on there. Do you know what? I think these scissors have got a little bit dinged on the edge. Let's go for a pair of snips instead. Those are my Teflon scissors, and they usually make it a lot easier to pick things up. But I think maybe the blade is thicker because it's got the Teflon on. Okay. Now, when you make this card, it's a really good idea to make sure that you burnish the folds on each side. Oh, I can't do it now. Burnish the folds on each side really well so it doesn't keep popping up. Oh my Lord. Right, okay. So that's that, that's that. That can go on there. Oh, really need to put some new putty in. Take your pick tool. Okay, so that's going on there. And that's going on there. So we've got those upper bits done. We've just got these two down here. Now that is going to be an awful lot of gems. And because I'm planning to make this card in a class, that would be 6, 7, 8, 10 gems per person, which is quite a lot of gems. So what I'm going to do is bring in my Wink of Stella. And I'm just going to colour in those other two that we've got there and there with a little bit of Wink of Stella. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of Wink of Stella to our owl just along the edges of his feathers, as if the light is catching it. Oops, a bit of a blot there. And we'll just do it around his tail. There, okay. I think that's enough Wink of Stella for anyone. Okay, so there's our finished card. We've got our sparkly owl. I don't know if you can catch that Wink of Stella. It doesn't really show up very well on... You can see the gems, obviously. The Wink of Stella doesn't always show up very well on a camera unless you get it at the right angle. I'm not very good at doing that. But anyway, you get the idea. So there's our finished card. I hope you like it. As I said, there's quite a few more elements to that than I often put on a card, but it's nice to make something that's a little bit more stepped up sometimes. So if you'd like to order any of the products I've used today, you can drop me a message either on my Crafty Yellow Camper Facebook page or my Crafty Yellow Camper Instagram page, or you can contact me on craftyyellowcamper@outlook.com. And I'd be happy to place an order for you. Alternatively, you can order online, and I think you can choose me to be your demonstrator if you do that. And if you wanted to order direct online, it's www.stampinup.uk. Okay, that's it from me for today. It's a little bit longer than I usually make my videos. So I hope you haven't all nodded off. And I'll see you again soon with some more new goodies from the mini catalogue. Thanks for watching and bearing with me, and I'll see you all soon. Happy stamping!